If you have to hop off the call, that's fine. You will be receiving the link for this call at a later time that you can watch. Again, wanted to give you guys a warm Philly welcome. We are a WUG. What is a WUG? A WUG is a Workfront User Group. We are really just a community of very passionate Workfront users that come together virtually and maybe once or twice in person quarterly throughout the year. Our goal is to create a safe place for us to learn, problem solve, and grow together. And we welcome everyone, no matter what your ability or level of skill is in Adobe Workfront, you are welcome here. So we hope to see more of you. It's nice to see some familiar faces. But we also wanted to talk about some of the rules. We have no self-promotion or pitching of any kind in this Workfront user group. We want to respect everybody. So do not reach out unless you have consent. If you want to expand your LinkedIn network, feel free to throw your LinkedIn profile within the chat, and those on the call can reach out and connect with you. But we also want to respect everybody's privacy. So what we're going to be talking about today and in the future, problems and use cases, please do not share outside of this meeting unless you have received consent. Okay, so let's jump right into it. I'm going to stop sharing and I'm going to pass it over to Kaylee.
All right, so we are super excited for this session. I know we were all together a couple months ago for our first kickoff meeting, and the feedback we got on that meeting and in the survey from that call was a resounding, we want to know more about Fusion. So we figured our first full session should just be all Fusion based. So we have a couple people on the call here that have pre-volunteered. I know Jen and I also have a couple of scenarios in our back pocket, but we encourage anyone on this call, if you have something awesome you want to share, whether it's seemingly simple or incredibly complex, please feel free to hop off mute in between, like when we're switching between people, and volunteer or drop something in chat so we know that you have something you want to share. And we'd love to get as many people as possible to share all of their awesome scenarios. And I guess if you have any questions, when someone's presenting, you can drop them in chat, and me and Jen can watch that and bring up the questions to whoever's sharing afterwards. But hopefully everyone can walk away with something really cool today. That's kind of the goal. So without further ado, I'm actually going to start with Kim. She is volunteered. Me and Kim have been friends for, I guess, over a year now. She has so many Fusion ideas, and we always swap Fusion ideas, and we're like, whoa, that's so cool. Whoa, that's so cool. So hopefully all of you can leave after hearing Kim and say, whoa, that's so cool. So I'm going to pass it off to Kim. Feel free, Kim, you can intro yourself and your experience with Workfront and Fusion, and then show us some cool stuff.
All right. Thank you for that intro. So I do have to preface this with, I've been in Fusion for, I think, 2 years now. And I have built a couple of things by myself, but I do every year purchase whatever the minimum number of hours is with Adobe services so that I can partner with one of their gurus and basically be like, here's what I want to do. Like, I don't know exactly like which modules and which this and that, because I find that watching them build what I can envision helps train me even more than the boot camp did, and anything that I read and anything that I do. So quick plug, I know not everybody might have the opportunity to, afford the service hours, but it has been huge for us. So you'll see some of these, and some of these like I built, and some of them I definitely explained to Jason, like, here's what I want to do. So this first one real quick is a lot of the first automations that I built were selfishly for me as the system admin, because I had a lot of things that I was doing manually that, or just audit activity that I was doing on a regular basis. Our instance is about 9 years old, our Workfront instance. So there was a lot of audit activity that I would do with a system to just keep it like fresh and clean. So this one is one where it runs once a week. and it closes inactive issues, which we call requests, and it makes comments on inactive projects. So if for the request, if, and it comes up this first path here, if the request, the last modified date is greater than 6 months, I would consider that request to be dead, right? There's been no comment activity. There's been nobody like doing anything, modifying any of the custom forms. That request should be dead and closed out. So if it's greater than 6 months, Fusion marks that request as closed and adds a comment to the request saying, Workfront Fusion automation, this request has been auto-closed after 6 months of inactivity. I do have a service account that we have so that it's not coming from any one person. It's just coming from the system. And the system tells them like it's been auto-closed because, 6 months of inactivity. And then it marks it as closed. And then for projects, if the last modified date on the project is greater than 90 days, so like 3 months, it posts a comment on the project and says like, hey, owner of this project, it's been inactive for 90 days. Please update or close it. I don't auto close projects because I got some feedback that would be terrible for some of our users. So I don't auto close the projects, but we do post that comment and tag the owner of the project and tell them, hey, like, can you do something with this? So questions, comments? I know we have a lot of like scenarios to get to, so I don't want to get too deep into some of these. But does this
I have a
go
question.
with anybody?
Yeah. I have a lot of fusion scenarios, and we do some things similarly. We haven't done it for requests, and there are a lot of requests that I'd like to close in the system that just, nobody's really taking through to finality. My concern has been it would be because it emails people when the status changes that if I set something like this up and I run it, it's going to be like somebody could get like 100 emails of like all this old crap that came through that we have now closed. Did you have a plan for that? Is that something, I don't know how many that might have been in this state for you. How did you handle it?
I did not think about it because I was thinking if it's greater than 6 months old, like, because I was doing a lot of manual auditing, with dashboards and reports and going in and manually closing it basically at the end of every year so that my reporting would be nice and clean.
Yeah.
So I didn't really think about it. So that's a good call out. I see Monique has her hand up.
Yeah, no, that is something I've thought about and had to deal with. So I can kind of just mention what I've done in my scenarios. And typically, once I figured out like, yes, this is good and we're going to actually run it on real things, I turn off the module that updates them on what's going on. Some of them will still get this issue has closed email. There are some ways to go in and like edit that as well, but it wasn't worth it in my use case. So, because also a lot of people ignore those emails anyway, and I also will make sure that we run that like over a weekend. So at least they're not getting it while people are actively working. So that's kind of my little tidbit on notifications. So I always just turn that little module off, let it run, do the thing that it needs to do, and then turn it back on for active stuff.
Smart. The other one, I'll share this one real quick and then we can kind of circle back. I've got 4 of them lined up here if we have time. This one is, like I said, selfishly for me as the system admin. This is updating access on reports and dashboards that haven't been viewed in over a year. So if somebody has not viewed a report in over a year, they're not using it. And I removed their access to the report so that, they don't have access to it. So if they're looking for it and they want to come find me, they can do that. And then it removes their access to the report. It removes their access to the dashboard. So it just clears up the clutter. So it runs once a week, and it just looks for reports and dashboards that haven't been viewed in over a year. and then removes their access to the reports. Now, I do have this path built that I've not used yet because I'm still a scaredy cat sometimes. But this path is for if it hasn't been viewed in 12 months plus 3 months. So like if their access has been removed and then another 3 months has gone by, that it will delete the report. So eventually I will get brave enough to turn that path on, but that's kind of selfishly, a lot of these first things that I built were very selfishly driven for me. So I didn't have to do a lot of this audit stuff manually anymore.
I know Monique in the past has mentioned difficulty in cleaning up reports or giving up on trying to clean reports up out of the system. Are you still in that place, Monique, or have you done any further cleanup or use like Fusion like this to clean up reports? This is the one thing I have not done yet, is try to do it for some more cleanup exercises.
Yeah, great question. Yep, still in that world. I'm actually actively going through it. It was one of those things that came from management that was like, hey, we want you to do report cleanup. I was like, of course you do. So that is now a goal that I need to complete by end of year. I don't have a Fusion scenario, but I do something quite similar, just using, of course, reports. Because if you know me, I solve everything with a report. Just to kind of go through it and clean and remove access and whatnot, but I also want to like put eyes on it before I delete it, hence the clutching of the pearls when Kim said,
right,
like, oh, just delete. I'm like, what do you mean? Because there's also just some really good stuff in there. Like I know for me, like there's some wild text mode columns that I have made, and I'm like, we can't just lose that, right? So I'm old school like that, like Ross said, the golden rule. And I'm like, what do you delete? What? That button doesn't exist. But yes, I am still in the process of cleanup. A lot of what Kim has in there is the same things that I do manually, of like, when has someone looked at it? When's the last time they looked at it? But I'm also looking at like what information is actually there. Because if it's date coded, we can get rid of it, especially if it's like 2019. I'm like, nobody cares what happened in 2019. And if they do, we'll make a new report.
And to like look this up for access, what are you doing to find like who accessed the report last? Is that just like a field that you basically can look?
That's a native field that you don't even have to do text mode for. I highly recommend anyone who hasn't done a report to either just look at your reports list and under that little column of filters, reviews, and groupings and see what views are in there, because there's a bunch of really good ones that you can kind of utilize. But yeah, the share with column is one that I use often. The last 10 viewers and the last update date and the last view date are the ones that I look at closely. I know this isn't a thing about reporting, but the other two things I'll say real quickly before we go back to Fusion is actually three things. Sorry. One is when you're looking at the user list, and especially who's it shared with, if they're no longer with the company. So I'll do like some text mode stuff to also show that, like if they're inactive and nobody's active, I'm like, nope, all right, that's not really real. Two, which I'm sure Kim accounts for in the scenario, is it doesn't always show, like a report might not always show that someone has viewed it if they are looking at it from a dashboard. So you want to check what reports live on a dashboard and then look at who's looking at those dashboards before you just make assumptions that someone's not using that report. Ask me how I know. And thirdly, again, there is no recycle bin for reports, so just be real careful on that delete.
Yep, that's why that path is still deactivated, because I'm also just so afraid. But I can tell you, in all the time that this has been running, I've not once, fingers crossed and knock on wood, had somebody come back to me and say, hey, I can't find this report that I'm looking for. Not once. So, all right, I will hand it over to Kaylee. I don't know who the next.
Who wants to go next? I know, Ross, you have some things loaded up to share. If you want to go next, and I don't know if anyone else on the call, if you're just here to watch and learn, or if you have something cool to share.
Yeah, I'm happy to jump in.
Yeah, go for it.
Great.
If anyone else wants to go next, let us know in the chat.
I have two scenarios to share with you today. One is our HubSpot to workflow, so all of our project intake. And then the second one, I call it public shaming for timesheets. So that one will be fun. So when we stood up Workfront about 4 years ago, and we also had Fusion. We had Adobe help us with our integration, and they designed 3 scenarios, and we asked them to kind of train the trainer. And so I was involved in the creation of the Fusion scenarios and worked closely with our experts at Adobe, and they kind of got me started in Fusion. And ever since I've been in Fusion, I love it, and I just love automating processes to make people's lives easier. One of the things that always slowed us down is we're a project-based agency. We're in Columbus, Ohio. The turnaround time from winning a project to starting the work, everybody's always looking for ways to compress that timeline. And so we found just taking the information out of HubSpot, which is our CRM that we use to manage the entire sales process, taking that and turning it into an active project in Workfront was very cumbersome. We have the custom form. There's a lot of information, data redundancy, and all of that. And so this was one of the big scenarios that we knew that we could get a lot of value of. So I put my head down and built it with my HubSpot system admin friend at Ology. This is the trigger that happens in HubSpot. So we have 2 pipelines, one for our new business and then one for continuing business or existing clients. And then it basically sends a webhook with the HubSpot ID over to Fusion. And this is our scenario that takes the HubSpot win and turns it into a project. And I'll go through this really quick. So this is the webhook that receives that HubSpot ID number. In a lot of my scenarios, I like to create what I call master variables. So this is where I can turn on and off like a test mode. So I have certain Slack channels created for production, but also for testing. So if I want to kind of just keep it in my little view only and have output go to specific channels, I can do that. And then when it goes into a production mode, I can turn off the test mode and it goes to where it's supposed to go, to the right audiences. So I do that. So this scenario reads that deal. It gets tons of information from the HubSpot record. The owner of that deal, which is basically the account manager, is a different object type in HubSpot. So it has to go in and get the deal owner's information. I'm then taking the company name out of HubSpot, which we use as our system of record for company names. To align Workfront and our accounting system to HubSpot for our company names. I'm then seeing if that company exists in Workfront. If it doesn't, it creates it. Then we have the set get variable construct here. And then we create we see if there's a portfolio in Workfront. And if there is not a portfolio, we'll then create one. And we create a company and a portfolio in Workfront for each of our clients. I won't get into the reason why, but that's what we do. And then for each portfolio, if it was missing, it needs to get created. And then we have to adjust our sharing. So we share it with 2 different groups, so an Ology group and then a project management group. So like everybody in the company can see the project and just the PMs can manage the work. So trying to figure out how to do a custom API call to manage sharing on a portfolio, that was fun. But again, the Experience League was a tremendous resource there. And then a set and get. So before I get into all of this, I then take that deal owner or the person that was in HubSpot and find that person in Workfront using an email lookup. So that's the consistent key field between HubSpot and Workfront and our users. So all of that, and then we get into actually the project creation. So what we found is people like to put in lots of random characters in deal names, which become our project names. And so I had to use this text parser to remove those and turn them into spaces. Otherwise, when we use those to create project folders on Google Drive and everything else, we might get failure. So again, this was like after the fact learning and trying to troubleshoot why things weren't working. But just being aware of invalid characters. HubSpot doesn't allows invalid characters until you upgrade to the enterprise level, and then you can have that option to turn it on and off. I don't know. So we have to do it in Fusion. And then we create the project finally. So we're taking a lot of the information that was in our custom form and now mapping it to the project. So what was the budget? Again, this is if the company existed, what's the company ID in Workfront? If we created a new company, what's that ID? Static groups. Here we're creating the project name. So we're taking the job number, which was already assigned in HubSpot, and applying that to the output of the removing invalid characters from the deal name here to become the name of the project. Owner IDs, planned start dates. This is me changing the start date of the project to 9 a.m. So rather than it being whatever it was when it got created. So that way everybody's project starts at the same time. Portfolio ID, sponsor ID. We always start in planning. We choose our templates based on different pipelines. And then we have a resourcing dashboard as well. So we're setting some statuses into a custom field, setting job numbers, and then recording the HubSpot deal ID in Workfront. So we always have that match back to the other systems. Then we use a common template for different project types, and then we're manually searching and deleting some of the template task that's not relevant to this type of work to kind of speed things up. Again, we're pushing back information to HubSpot. Again, in this case, we would put the Workfront project ID over to there so we can always align the two systems. And then here we're getting our owner name and our sponsor name. So in our world, this is our project manager, our account manager. We're looking up a project folder and finding the original proposal. So this is a Google Drive API that we have, and you'll see why here in a second. And then we're setting a whole bunch of message content. I will show you the output of this, but we're controlling both Slack and email here. And then we're sending an email to our resourcing team, and then sending as an admin to our Slack channel, just as confirmation that all this happened. So at the end of the day, this is what happens. We get a Slack message to our HubSpot admin channel, which is just me and our HubSpot system admin in the thing, just confirming like, hey, a new project was created. Here's a link to the deal. Here's a link to the actual Workfront project. And then this email gets sent to the resourcing team. Hey, we want a new business project. Here's the name of the project. Please assign an AM and a PM on this dashboard. So they have a link directly to their dashboard. And then because we got the Google Drive link to the proposal, they can access that right here directly. And then here's the contact of who owned that deal. So all of this took probably a 45-minute process and turned it into a 30-second process. And all of this communication happens, and it has had a tremendous impact on our business. The next one is posting delinquent timesheets to a people leader and a project manager Slack channel. So this is to help us govern timesheet compliance. And so at the end of the day, we found that we were sharing reports with people leaders, but nobody was acting on them. And so I was like, what's a different way to get people to take action to help facilitate people submitting timesheets? We have other scenarios that email people on Mondays and Tuesdays if they haven't submitted their timesheets from the previous week. And Olibot, which is our Fusion user that sends them emails, the messaging gets, a little bit more stern on a Tuesday than it did on a Monday. It's on brand, but it is kind of fun. So people leaders, we have a report that's exported at a certain time. I think it's like 5 a.m. on Wednesdays. We use this scenario here to grab that report, and then we're going to do a quick search in Workfront to find all timesheets that have not been approved, aggregate those, sort out those people who had more than 2 timesheets due, group those by team, and then we're going to post that into a people leader and a project management channel. And without revealing names, this is what that notification looks like. So here's a list of our overdue timesheets. So it's grabbing that report that was sent out, or that was exported out of Workfront in the morning. And then here, the following people have more than 2 timesheets grouped by team. The team leader here has 6, so we get to really publicly shame him in some meetings. And this is a lot for right now, but it tremendously has helped. At least people have better awareness rather than trying to read a report, for them to get like a summation here in a Slack channel. We have found that it actually significantly helps. And the messaging too. So the following people have more than 2, rather than saying, hey, these people have, 3 or more timesheets due. So trying to, be really cognizant of the messaging as well. And then we also only do this on every other week. So trying to figure out how to create a scenario that runs on even weeks only was fun, but figured out how to do it again with the help of Experience League. So that is my public shaming scenario.
Love it. You probably didn't see, you had a lot of people in chat too that also loved it. Think it's cool, like the public shaming. Anybody have any questions for Ross?
Yeah,
No?
I think I know the story, but for everybody else, Ross, can you just tell us how long it took you to kind of go from no Fusion at all to like now you're building your own stuff?
So we started off with 3 scenarios. We now have 41 in our instance. And so 39 of those I was the author of.
Awesome.
And that's happened over the last 4 years. And so don't be intimidated by Fusion at all. Finding the right objects and trying to piece it all together. I've learned a lot about like spending time in FigJam or some other tool to collaborate with others to kind of think through the scenario before you just sit down in Fusion and build it and just kind of map it out. It goes a long way and saves you lots of debugging and troubleshooting time, or thinking of use cases or edge cases that may exist that you didn't think of. And so that would be advice, is just like dive in. There's a ton of resources out there. Make Academy is really good as well for a resource. And so it's fun.
Awesome. Yeah, Monique, I think you've mentioned before, the biggest thing with Fusion is everyone wants everything automated, but you need it all completely mapped out before you can automate something. A lot of teams can't do that. So yeah, before you jump right into a scenario, mapping the whole thing out and making sure you can actually build something is key.
Yeah, a lot of people probably hate me for it, but I'm like, okay, walk me through the steps. Because if you can't, what am I telling the robot, right? Like, and that's how I word it. I'm like, if you can't do it repetitively the same way every time, then neither can the robot.
Mm-hmm. I told somebody 2 weeks ago, if you can't define it, I can't automate it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I can't automate chaos. Like,
let's make stickers. Right next to the "is it in Workfront" sticker, you say you can't automate chaos.
So many WUG sticker ideas here going on.
Yeah. Maybe we'll make some. Okay, well, thank you so much, Ross. Steven, I think you volunteered to go next. Love to see what you have.
Yeah, I'll jump in here. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, Steve shared the link to the meeting with me. I'll have to get signed up for the user group too, so I get my own invite next time. But let me share here. Let me share a window.
We can put that in the chat for you as well.
Perfect. All right, you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to run through. We basically have 3 major scenarios that we're working with here, and they're all focused on communicating between Workfront and Salesforce.com. So we mainly use it for our project intake process, and we have 3 different scenarios. One that manages the creation of the Workfront project and associating that back to the opportunity objects in Salesforce. So it's really project intake, getting the project started and reviewed by our project teams. And then we have updates of the information um, from Salesforce to Workfront. So if things change in Salesforce, we push them back across to Workfront for certain fields. And then if we change certain things in Workfront that affect some of the data out in Salesforce, we push that back out to Salesforce. So I don't know that we're going to get through all these here. So just stop me if there's somebody else that's going to be talking here, and I won't go into super depth of what we got going on here, but we'll just kind of walk through. I'm not going to jump into every single task, but give you an idea what we're doing here and some of those things. So stop if you have questions. So just talk through the CPB, which is our customer parameters brief, customer requirements, basically the creation of that Workfront project. Just using a webhook from Salesforce to monitor activities over in Salesforce. There's a trigger there that basically when the project gets to a certain stage from our sales team, it'll send something out to the webhook and then initiate this scenario to start running. We do a couple little things where we're querying Salesforce to look up some customer or competitor information, looking up account information, just really focusing on taking unique IDs that are used in the APIs from Salesforce over into real names that we understand inside of Workfront as opposed to GUIDs. We do a couple things with sequencing. So all of our projects have sequential numbers that are prefixed by the year, and then a sequential number at the end. So 2025-0001 is our first one, and then we sequence from there. So we use a data store within Fusion to define what our current year is, and then basically keep that running sequence. So as we assign the next number in one of these later tasks, it'll go and store that current sequence number. And we store a couple other things in that data store, like we have like some template project values, and like we have some Q projects that are like kind of standards that we use to apply to all of our new product development work. So we kind of store some of that stuff in that data store. A little bit of automation where when we flip over to the new year, it always checks to see if we're kind of in that new calendar year. It'll flip that sequence over to 2026 on the 1st of January when the next new project in the new year comes in. And some of these activities are really just related to the sequencing stuff and kind of maintenance of that. So you can kind of see here, we write the new sequence number into that data store after we pull the next current value, doing a little bit of lookups there for the portfolio ID. So we really manage all of our new product development projects in one portfolio. That portfolio ID is defined in that data store as well. So if we at some point in time decide we want to move it over to a different portfolio and kind of move some of that stuff around, we can do that with that one task there, and querying some of the program information. And then we get into the point where we create the project. So project ends up getting created inside of Workfront. And then we have a couple branches here that we work with. So I'll run up to the top one. First thing then, once we get that, we've assigned that sequence number for the project, so 2025 and the sequential number. We take that information, pass that right back out to Salesforce. So we have some associativity between that new project ID that we've assigned, as well as the Workfront project ID. So that's used in some of the future scenarios so that we know what we're synchronizing to, and we have that unique ID shared out there in Salesforce. And then one of our other paths here, we're coming across to take a look at the form data that we're looking to attach to the projects, as well as any other template type information that we want to attach. So I'll preface this by a lot of the work that is done here. We did also work with Workfront Consulting at the time prior to Adobe, but we did work with them extensively. We had an engagement that um, went for a month or two to kind of go through the configuration of all these. It was pretty detailed list of requirements, and um, we kind of don't go the easy path within our business ever, and I don't think most companies do. But we doing this again, I definitely would scale back from some of the stuff because I think sometimes listening to users, they want everything, and then we find out that they're not really using everything. So um, I would say start small if you're going to do something like this level of complexity, and then kind of grow into it. But anyway, we're here. So as we went through the activities to kind of work with some of our templates, we found some shortcomings with the way that Workfront manages some of this information. So normally we would want to just attach a standard template to the project that would include all of our request queues and topic groups and queue topics and things like that. Um, but what we ran into, we from a compliance perspective, we really need to track what project templates we have assigned and we're running within the project. So um, and we have many different types of project templates that we use depending on the customer industry and things like that. So we weren't able to just attach a standard queue template project to this. So once you do that, Workfront retains the first project template that is assigned to the project in its kind of in that field, in that relationship field in the project. So even if we would attach a secondary template on top for like the industry templates, um, it would not overwrite that. So we'd only ever see this initial um, like queue topic template per se. So we kind of had to work around quite a bit of this to be able to get our complex queues set up within all of our new product development projects. So probably have Steve, I don't know what it, probably at least 20 to 30 different queue topics depending on where the routing is going between manufacturing, marketing, and all the different areas of the business. So um, so what we ended up doing is we reference a project template out inside of Workfront that Fusion takes a look at for all the different topic groups, queue topics, routing activities, and then basically manually is applying those into the new project that we've created. So I'm not going to go into each one of these, but that's kind of what we're doing in this branch here. The other things that we're also doing, since we're not officially attaching a template, we're getting some of the project settings that we want to define and manage. So like turning on auto baseline and some of those types of things, completion type and setting all that type of stuff. So again, since we're not applying that project template, we're manually kind of configuring those preferences for each one of the projects there. And then this is really the big one for kind of the activity that we're doing, mapping over all the different fields that we have from Salesforce over into the forms in the fields that we've defined over inside of Workfront. So you can kind of see all the blue values are all Salesforce fields that came in on that initial push out through the webhook, and then you can see the design elements that they're linked to over inside of Workfront on that form. So some custom code in there too with formatting for some of the way the data comes across from Salesforce. Nothing's ever super clean when you're dealing with dates and numbers and stuff like that. So I do some special formatting and with some of those fields coming across. Any questions so far? Kind of running through pretty quick, but just speak up if you have any. So some of the other things and other functionality that we have, we're bringing across documents as well from Salesforce. So we'll go in and query the document attachments on those records in Salesforce for those opportunity objects. And then we're bringing those across into the Workfront project as well. So this is, again, some just transparency that we have between the two environments. When our sales team uploads data to the opportunities there in Salesforce, those will get brought across here, pushed into the document area inside of Workfront. We timestamp them and things like that. So if there are changes, we'll push those back across again, back into Workfront. And some notifications too that go out to the project team and stuff like that. So this was a whole path that we ended up blocking because we decided that we were going to be handling things differently once we went into production. So it was a lot of stuff that isn't actually being used right now, but I kept it around just in case we needed to move back and they changed some functionality. I think you can probably see we're using a lot of legacy task types here. So we're going to be going through probably a substantial rebuild at some point in time, because I know they're deprecating some of the watch activities here, moving over to newer and hopefully better functionality in the newer releases of Fusion. But so this is, I think we built this probably in 2003, I want to say 2000. It was probably 2002, I guess, when we went live with it. But so some old stuff, and generally that's been running pretty well. We do have some hiccups here and there from time to time, but for the most part, it's been pretty robust for us. So that's kind of like the project intake process. It'll go through, build out the project. Then we manage some of that stuff within this CPB details form. We have some fields that are managed directly in Salesforce that we do not give our end users access to modify. So those are kind of owned by the Salesforce application, and only admins would be able to edit them, but they'll get overwritten by Salesforce there. And then we have some stuff that's owned inside of Workfront that we can make adjustments to, and then that's the certain fields synchronized back out to Salesforce. But we capture a lot of those types of things. We got the record IDs for the Salesforce information, so we have those references, and I kind of mentioned some of the stuff that we've kept track here. So since we can't really go into use the out of the box relationships with some of the project template IDs, we're actually capturing some of those too in some of the other scenarios. So if somebody attaches a new template, we had issues with some users attaching multiple templates over and over, and we're like, why is this not behaving the way it should? We can kind of see that in here, where we have a little bit of a log for whenever anybody attaches a new template. It'll capture that so that we can see what that template was, and then what the ID of the template was. So we got some history there to go back and troubleshoot. Any questions on this one? Do we have anybody else that would like to present? If not, I can jump to the other two that we have.
I can share more of like a quick win if anybody's interested.
Yeah, go for it. This is
okay. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm just going to jump in super quick. We have so much good content, so we might end up actually making a part 2. So
I think we need to. Yeah, absolutely.
We'll continue this conversation. Yeah, no, go for it.
Okay, cool. Just going to share my screen. Okay, so hopefully you can see a calendar.
Yes.
So I inherited a Workfront instance that was basically stalled out, and I'm trying to get people to adopt it more and to not make those punitive automations that I've done in a previous role and make it more like user-friendly and make people want to come into Workfront every day. So one idea somebody had was like, hey, I would really like to see people on my team's birthdays and work anniversaries in a calendar. I'm like, oh, that's an interesting challenge to solve. So right now it's only showing a test user. I'm trying to respect people's privacy, but just imagine this is like very populated with birthdays and anniversaries, and this is filtered by home team ID. But the way that I did this, first of all, I thought it was really important to make it opt-in. And so everybody goes into their own profile, and if they choose, they can go down to a custom form and enter in their birth month and day. And this was an interesting technical challenge because for birthday, I really don't want to collect year. Like people don't want to put in the year of their birth and it's not necessary. So it's only birth month and day. But for work anniversary, you need the year because you want to know how long they've been with a company. So I collected the information in different ways for each of those milestones. So this is the anniversary automation. So it's basically looking for users that have entered data. So it's finding users with anniversaries, and then it's reading that information, and it's going to create 2 records, one for this year, one for next year. So we can always be kind of a year ahead on the calendar. And basically all this is doing is creating a task within a project. And so I have an anniversary project and I have a birthday project. And so that's not what I meant to show. Yeah. So these are collapsed right now, but this is the anniversary calendar. It has people's names in the tasks. I'm again trying to respect privacy, but nested under each year is a task for each user's name and milestone or the date of their anniversary. And that is what populates the calendar that people see in those employee milestones. And I did the same thing for birthdays. Longer term plans. The other thing it does, I have another automation that posts a little happy birthday message on their user profile or anniversary message. So that's something I'm implementing now. And I have some ideas for the future where I could randomize weird things like horoscopes. And I was going to make it like sort of cheesy, work-oriented, I've probably used like a chat, like a GPT or something to generate horoscopes that are directly tied to Workfront or to the company that everybody works for, and have a place for those on their user profile as well. And just like anything you can imagine that you can build off of these dates, I just want to kind of start to put that out there to get people just more interested in using Workfront and to think of it as something fun to do every day instead of something that they have to do every day. Anyway, just a fun little one. And that's where we are today. Anyway, that's all I got. It was again a quick win. I've been working on larger automations involving pulling things out of Trello and Basecamp and getting them onto Workfront boards, which requires using the Workfront boards API, which is a little bit squirrely because it's not documented. But maybe I'll save that one for next time. This was just a little fun one.
Yeah, super fun. Thank you for sharing, Noah. Everyone in the comments loves the personal
touch.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Awesome. We have a couple minutes left, and I know Jen and I have a few things we want to share with you guys, but I think, Jen, I can share one of my super fast scenarios also.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can share one too. So go ahead, you go first.
Okay, so this one we implemented this year, and it's a very simple scenario compared to what some of you guys have shown, like your huge scenarios. So it's super simple, but it saved us, I think in this year alone, it was like over 450 hours, which sounds crazy, but I work for a company that our projects are really just like quick turnaround, like tasks. We have a lot of high volume requests. So the time savings is only like a minute per task or a minute per project, but the volume, it adds up really quickly. So what's happening here is a user task reassignment. So I'll show you an example of a project. this is getting sent over to a team and they're pulling from a queue, but they're assigning every task to like themselves. So one person is doing everything in the project. And it was really a time suck to like click on each one, bulk upload, add their name, whatever. It was easy, but like it takes time and the time adds up. So I went ahead and made this scenario where it's going to run through. We have a data store that's checking that the name entered matches the right role. And then it basically just goes through and assures the user has the role, finds all the tasks in that project with that role, and then adds that name to that role. And they all do it from a dashboard. So this is like a lot of our teams work out of intake queues. So they just come here. This is a new project, and they would just assign their name here, click enter, and then Fusion does its thing, and it would assign them to every task in here, and it also makes them the project owner. And that was a super quick win with a huge time saving at the end of the year.
Awesome.
All right, Jen, you want to share one quick? And
Sure,
then we'll
absolutely. Yes. All right. All right, can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. So first and foremost, I'm very new to Fusion. I'm probably about a year in. So my goal this year is to develop some Fusion scenarios. So we do work with a Fusion consultant who is my right-hand man. And so this is something that him and I worked on together. I was having to constantly chase people down within the organization to close your projects. Please close your projects. This is 30 days past the shipping date. This is 60 days past the shipping date. And so finally, what we decided to do was just create a Fusion scenario that will look at the project's due date, close the project, but before you close the project, you have to mark all tasks as complete or no work done. So it looks at the tasks where there are hours associated with them, marks those as complete. If there are no hours associated with the tasks, it'll mark that as no work done, and then it'll go ahead and change that project status to complete. I will tell you, and you, again, I'm preaching to the converted. It doesn't matter how many notifications you are going to send out to people. When I turned this scenario on, there was mass pandemonium and there was chaos. So not only did it change behavior within our team to be mindful of their projects, if the projects are running past due, update the date. But it also then provided clear reporting for our lines of business that we report back to. So I had people complain to me one time, and now no one has complained. And now folks just know this is constantly running. And so they just need to make sure that their data is clean. So that was my quick win.
Yeah, sometimes it takes them getting 400 emails to recognize that they're actually doing something wrong.
Yes,
they can do better.
absolutely.
So have any questions before we have a couple wrap-up slides? This was really great, and I want to say thank you to everyone who has shared something. And I know there was still more. We all had more. So I definitely think in our lineup for next calendar year is a Fusion Part 2. But yeah, if you have any, I know someone said future topic, Workfront, Agile, and boards. If you guys have any other things you want to see in the upcoming year, Jen and I will start planning that out. So please drop it in the chat. And then let's just wrap up. Okay, so I know we just talked a lot about Fusion, but you guys probably know about all the upcoming Adobe Workfront events. They're always great. I know I always just join, I always sign up for them, even if I can't join, because they usually send a follow-up email and a recording, so it always stays top of mind. But there are two on here on the 19th and December 3rd for Fusion. So if you want to continue the brainstorming out of today, I highly recommend going to those Fusion sessions and keep the wheels turning. And I have a link. I'll send it in a second. Jen, you want to talk about that?
We are working on our next virtual WUG event, TBD for January, but the topic is one that's very close to my heart. It's what's the biggest mistake you've ever made in Workfront? What did you learn and how did you fix it? This is an actual picture of me about a month ago because I made a large error in the system. And let me tell you something. I learned so much about the error, so much about how to fix the error. I leaned heavily on support. And then I also learned additional nuggets that I will share with you guys in January. But if you have a tale similar to mine, maybe with a similar picture, we would love to hear from you and would love for you to possibly participate in our January session. So send us an email and we will connect with you.
Oh, and Monique sent a link in chat. Everyone go to Monique's event too. She has a WUG event coming up on Friday, November 21st about reporting. And Monique is the queen of reporting anyways. So you guys want to be there if you want to know anything about reporting. Check that out as well. And then just to wrap it up, I know we kind of mentioned this in the beginning, but make sure to just stay connected with our chapter. I know a lot of you on here are part of the chapter, but some of you just joined because you found out about Fusion and you were interested and signed up for that event. So in order to hear about all future events, you have to be connected with our chapter. And then you'll get an email about all future events that we plan. So we hope that you join our chapter, stay connected, and we hope to see you at future events. That's all we have, guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you,
guys.
Thank you.
Have a great rest of your day.
Yes. Have a great week.